Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. If this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. If you're an organizational leader or manager in church-based ministry, in business, in academia, then you're definitely in the right place. In addition to hosting the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast, I also offer one-to-one and group coaching for leaders and leadership teams that want to improve their effectiveness and become more productive and increase their performance. Inspirational, entertaining, and engaging keynote talks that will help shift the mindset of your leaders and bring about the organizational culture that you really desire. For more information or to book a free, no obligation consultation to see whether we're the right fit for each other, simply drop me an email today at errol@errollawson.com, and I'd love to have a chat with you. Thank you for listening. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back to the Rising Generation Podcast with me, Errol Lawson, and my guest today is Pastor Akomaye Ugar. Now, Akomaye is the first person to come back on the podcast. If you go back and listen to episode number 7, you'll hear him talking about his life story, his journey in ministry, how he's gotten to where he is today. And where he is today, he's a prolific writer, he's a leadership and personal development consultant, a value-powered speaker and pastor. And those based in Calabar in Nigeria, he travels internationally on regular speaking schedules, especially to the United States of America and the United Kingdom. Akomaye, great to have you again today.
Thanks, Errol. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Great to have you. Listen, I know the last time we spoke, you shared your journey in ministry, talked about your challenges and what have you, and just a really insightful conversation. I know you got a new book out recently. And we want to chat a little bit about your new book, and also just speak to the young people in our generation who are either have leadership aspirations, leadership goals, visions, entrepreneurial pursuits in mind, and just to speak to them and speak to their hearts about how they can move themselves forward.
Okay, well, Errol, I have a new book titled How to Board the Mentorship. How to Board the Mentorship. And I've been mentoring people for close to 2 decades. And I realized that many times when people say they want mentorship, they're not exactly sure about what they're saying. Now, even for those who are genuine and really need mentoring, They don't understand how to develop a mentoring relationship, how to keep one, and how to benefit from it. So this book will help mentees learn how to start out a mentoring relationship, understand the rules for mentoring, and then learn how to
where should somebody start? Like, people talk a lot about the need for mentors and the value of mentors and the power of mentors. What is your advice to a young person who's reaching out? How soon in their journey should they have a mentor, and where should they begin?
Okay, well, a young person should have a mentor as soon as they realize that they're supposed to live for a purpose, as soon as they realize that they need certain action steps for every season in their lives, as they try to make progress towards where they believe they should be, because a mentor will offer wisdom. A mentor will teach the kinds of things that can bring guidance and direction, inspiration, and so on. So as soon as somebody realizes that they have an assignment, they have a sense of purpose, they should be going somewhere, and they're not sure what to do, they need mentoring.
How should I find that person? People come and say to me all the time, Errol, how do I find a mentor? And, where do I start? And, what advice would you give to them?
Okay, I would say understand who you are, understand what you want. If you don't know what you want, then you cannot possibly find that person who can help you. So a mentor speaks very deeply into your heart constantly. When a mentor speaks, it looks like you're at home. It looks like this is where I should be. This is what I should listen to. This is the diet I should be on. So you need to know exactly what you want. You need to know exactly where you want to go, and then it will be possible to identify a mentor that has the navigational system to help you get there.
Awesome. Brilliant. And I just want to continue in that vein, speaking to young people, because many today, I was on the BBC twice this week, and the issue that they were asking to speak about was knife crime. And just the fact that many of our young people today are in our inner cities in the UK are going into this thing, this whole carrying knife thing. I wanted to speak into that a little bit, speak to our young people, if you will, and just what do they need? What is it that they're lacking? What do they need in order to live a purposeful life in this generation, in spite of the different external pressures, society's challenges, family breakdown? How do they move through that, overcome that, and fulfill their potential?
Well, Errol, every young person has got to realize that in spite of what's happening all around him, there is something on the inside of him. Unfortunately, many times people react based upon what's happening all around them, and they forget to create new actions that can inform other actions. Now, for as long as we wait on only the actions that elicit pain, and for as long as we refuse to do something new to create a new season and create a new atmosphere for new actions, then we're going to be subservient to the things that have already happened. But we must realize that what has happened is history. We cannot live our today only based upon history. We have a today that gives us an opportunity to chart a new course that can redefine or that can predict our preferred history. You see, people want to fill their lives with all kinds of things. And so the vices we see today are just, proof that people desperately want to fill the vacuum in their lives. But you see, there's a word called fulfillment. Fulfillment can only come when you identify the reason for which you are alive. And fulfillment is gotten from the words to be fully filled. So the only thing that qualifies to fill your life really is a sense of purpose, something that you can live for, and where necessary, die for. So our young people have got to realize that there is a reason for them. There is a reason for which they have breath. Someone said that greatness will happen to those who believe that something on the inside of them is greater than anything at all that happens all around them. So our young people need to look inward. They may find nothing on the outward that would answer their questions and so on, but now they need to travel inward to find the answers that they were born to give. And if they get busy giving these answers and profiling the solutions that are already intimately integrated into their potential, then we will have a better society, Errol.
So I want to go a bit deeper, I want to go a bit deeper. Two things come to mind, because I know there are so many youth today, young people today, and they're hearing you and they're saying, yeah, but my parents have divorced and separated, and they're saying, well, maybe my dad's in prison, or my mom has another partner in her life, and I'm alone and I'm struggling and I can't see a way out. Like, how should they bring this to reality in their own life? What should they do practically?
Errol, I'll say two things. I'll say two things real quick. Number one, there are many uncertainties and many things that we cannot directly give an answer to. But you see, if we could give an answer to everything, we probably will not need God in our lives. Not to sound religious. Yes, I'm a spiritual man, but not to sound religious. The truth is that there is a limit to the intelligence of man. There's the limit to the efforts of man. There is only so far we could go. There's only so much we could do. We have to trust in God. Faith. They need faith. They need to believe that God's ability can bring them over. They need to believe. Now, our psychologists are doing a lot of good work, but the truth is that there's much that the psychologists cannot do, So we have to trust God. Only Him can quell the inner crisis, the civil war that goes on the inside of a person. Only God can provide the panacea, the answers, the solutions that can deal with the issues that are even so so hydra-headed that they're difficult to explain. They need faith. And secondly, they must come to terms with reality. We all have to go through one fight or the other. When you find a man who has become a man that is worth anything, it's important to know that he's gone through battles, he's gone through fights. We are not triumphant unless we have had to face obstacles. We're not victorious unless we've had to have fights. So we are not winners unless we've been in a contest. We must realize that there are fights to fight. To go upward in our lives, to go forward in our lives, we've got to fight fights. And if you're going to live the life that is worth living, then you must decide in advance you're going to fight. You're going to have to decide that you're not going to be a quitter. You will decide that come what may, you are willing to stand with the kind of intestinal fortitude and resilience that says, I'm not quitting at this. I'll make sure I make the most out of this. So they need faith, and then they need the heart that says, I am willing to fight. So help me God.
Amen. Amen. And now let's just flip it around a bit, because there are people listening who are leaders of young people, and they're having to counsel, coach, mentor, pastor some of these young people that are growing up in these circumstances. And some of them are at a loss. Some of them are thinking, how do I even connect with them? What do I even say to them to bring them through? What are the 3 or 4 things that you think that we need to be imparting onto our young people, helping them to understand about themselves?
Okay, I believe the leaders ought to create the right environment that helps people discover, helps people develop, and also helps people learn how to profitably deploy their entire purpose and potential. Truth is, Errol, you see, once we get busy with purpose is involving. Jesus said, occupy till I come. And when did he say occupy? It was after he gave out the talents. And so he says, occupy till I come. He actually meant that with the gifting that we have, we can be occupied. We can develop an occupation. We can be so profitably engaged for the rest of our lives with what we've got on our inside. So one of the things that we should strive to do as leaders is to teach people or create an environment that helps people discover themselves, develop themselves, and also learn how to deploy the purpose and potential that God has put on their inside. When this happens, there will be an empowerment, some kind of capacity development that helps people see themselves beyond their disadvantages, beyond the influences of the issues and circumstances around them, and begins to give them a sense of purpose for living, a sense of relevance, a sense of being needed, a sense of usefulness. And Errol, that's enough to occupy a person for the rest of their lives. I'm not saying that will automatically take the pain away, but that engages you to where you can outgrow the negative influence of the pain.
Are you seriously fired up about growing as a leader in business or church-based ministry? Are you feeling somewhat frustrated about not having realized your full potential in what you've been called to do? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in an increased sense of clarity, direction, and purpose, dramatically increasing the results you achieve. If you're ready to step up, contact Errol to book a free, no-obligation introductory coaching session and see whether Errol is the right coach for you. Errol takes the lessons learned from his own leadership journey and from his extensive research to help leaders and entrepreneurs to step into their biggest challenges and rise to their next level. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
Great. So it's that journey. It's actually doing life with young people, walking that journey with them of discovery, of self-discovery, of who they are. And it's so important that as leaders that we're committed to that process with young people, because that process can be so messy. it can be so like unpredictable. Things go off, things break, things fall over, things go upside down, all through that journey of with that young person. It's so important that we have, like Jesus discipled his apostles, when he went through them, let them fail, let them make mistakes, but he walked with them through the journey of discovery of purpose and of who they really are. Is there anything else that we need to really impart onto our young people, you think, that's really key?
Okay, I would say just one more thing there. Our young people need to build capacity. Errol, as a young man in my teenage years, at about the age of 17, I had a mentor who, amongst many things that he would say to us, one of the things he told us repeatedly was for us to buy resources.
Okay.
He said to apportion a percentage of our income and use that percentage to get books and other inspirational resources. Our young people need to build capacity. You cannot become what your diet is not. We're all a product of our diet. And so our young people have got to begin to invest in information, invest in wisdom. They've got to invest in books. They've got to invest their time in that which really matters. They've got to invest. Someone said, pay today.
I get that. There are people listening, and we understand that as leaders, we've come to a place of realizing that. But how do we transfer that sense of responsibility and urgency and desire for knowledge and information to our young people? I know you had a mentor there that inspired you. When this generation, it's not as straightforward, I don't think, necessarily in this climate. How do we get that across to them?
Errol, a great leader must know how to inspire people, because everything depends on his ability to inspire people. If we're going to teach people the value of information, the value of books, and what books have done to us, what books have done to others, if we're going to show them that great leaders were a product of their reading, if we're going to show them that a reader today, a leader tomorrow, if we're going to show them that you're the same person you are today in 5 years, but for the books you read, the people you meet, and the places you go, if we inspire them with the right information concerning the value of reading, and if we point them to possible book titles and recommend things that will be useful to them, I believe progressively that we can help them imbibe the responsibility and the habits of reading.
Amen. In the process of time. Brilliant. And is there anything else you want to share today, just about what you're working on, or something that's really been on your heart lately, the Lord has led in your heart as you've been going around and ministering in different parts of the world? Is there a current word that you want to share? Current thought?
Okay, well, Errol, I know that not too long ago I had a recurring word in the area of building systems for leaders. A lot of leadership efforts, many times it's lost or is wasted because we don't have systems as leaders. So I've been involved with training church leaders and then teaching leaders on how to develop systems that can help them have sustainable results in the efforts that they make towards productivity. So leaders have got to have systems. Sometimes it looks like we just do the things that we do, but we don't create the avenue that can make these things multiply, make these things grow, and so on and so forth. So we can give a whole lot of content without creating systems that can develop others who would give the same content, and so on and so forth. This is kind of for mature leaders, really, but it's been on my heart because I've seen good people who are not successful. I've seen good teachers who don't have successful ministries or don't have successful organizations. I am really bothered. There are wonderful preachers who are good at preaching at other people's platforms, but there's really nothing to write home about in their home church on their own platforms, which really should be the most important in their lives. So I believe that leaders should become really interested in developing systems, systems
And
that help them.
what is the key area? What is the key area in the life of a leader that you think those systems need to be implemented that maybe have been neglected right now?
Okay, this is huge. I was trying to run away from that, but well, I'll try my hands for. I'll just try my hands a bit there because it's broad. Anyways, a leader must know why he leads. A leader must define. It's not enough to just write a vision statement. A leader must be intimately connected to his vision statement. A leader must be interested in finding the evidence of his vision statement in the people that he leads. I usually dare to say, do not assess me only by the quality of what I say. Look at the people who relate with me the closest. Look at the people that I say I have invested this information into, and judge my worth by what they have become. So I am deliberate about wanting to find the vision expressed in the people that I influence. I am interested in doing an assessment of my effectiveness and the wellness of my leadership from the feedbacks and the quality of life and quality of leadership that the people who draw from me now elicit. Now, so a leader must be intense. A leader must be deliberate about wanting to find in those he influences or things he influences evidences that show that his leadership has affected them positively. Now, if that's the case, then he must go on there and develop the systems. I'll give you an example. On the one part, I am passionate about having people develop spiritually, like deeply spiritually. I'm also passionate about raising leaders who fulfill their purpose with excellence. Now, out of that vision picture has come certain structures. I run schools, the school of wisdom, the school of prophets, different schools of leadership, and so on, and running the schools. The schools have a curriculum, and so on and so forth. So people can come, and I know they're not just coming to hear me one time. I have plans for creating opportunities to dish out the curriculum in a systematic manner, and so on and so forth. I also have structures to check how well the people who are around me, who get influenced by the things that I say, how well they have learned. Now, in the Faculty of Education, we were taught that learning has occurred when there is a relatively permanent change in behavior. Now, so I can do an assessment of the behavior of certain people around me in certain areas to check whether they have learned the things that I have been teaching. I mean, I'm deliberate, so there must be systems. Now, there are different kinds of organizations here, so I would want to restrict what I'm saying to just general principles because they can apply differently, yes, in different organizations. But we must know what we want to achieve from our vision. We must have a plan to inculcate this vision, or to teach people in a manner that their lives can become an evidence of this vision. We must have systems that help to consolidate the gains that we make. Errol.
So can you give us an example of in your personal life where there's such a system that you adhere to, or you have in place that brings you that clarity and those results that you're talking about?
Okay, let me use our church for for example, I believe that many things will make people stay in a church. One, they have if they hear the right word. Two, if they develop relationships, like they make friends in the church. And three, if they have an excellent learning environment, amongst many others. Now, but let me deal with these first three. And so, as far as learning, like having quality tutelage, one of my personal values of myself, which I equally have imparted in our leaders, is that within any 5 minutes of anyone being around you, you must add value to the person. So we don't have a ministry that is just purpose of engaging the time of people. Every activity must add value to the people. And so within any 5 minutes of anyone being in our event, in our service, in our program or something, there must be value added to them. There must be value added to them. So we want to respect them enough to make sure that they have good value for their time. That is one. Number two, I said, when people have relationships within an organization, I'm using my church now as a case in point, there is a strong tendency that they will stay. People stay where there's love. People can go to where there's excitement, but eventually they'll stay where there's love. So I have taught our leaders, for example, on subjects like how to influence people, the laws of connectivity, and so on and so forth. So our people are deliberately taught on how to make relationships, how to make people feel at home, how to reach out to people. And we have a standing order that at the end of any service that we have, our leaders must walk up to a few people that do not look familiar, to ask the name and then introduce themselves and establish some form of relationship or the other. So we keep teaching it, and it's fast becoming a strong culture, so that's one way. And then thirdly, I talked about people wanting to be in an excellent environment. In business, there's what's called the law of perceived value, where people will do business with a person or with a group or with a company depending on how they perceive their expertise, their quality, their worth, etc. So what's on my mind is when someone steps into church, what's the first impression on his mind? I learned as a young man that you don't have a second opportunity to correct a poor first impression. And so how do I prepare for a favorable first impression? That tells me that the auditorium should look beautiful as much as we can per time. That tells me that the arts, the paint, the colors, the settings, and so on must be so organized that when someone steps in, at least if there is not a big wow, there should be at least a wow, so something like that. So we try to plan for the people that we expect to come, and we honor these people by preparing appropriately for them. We show them from the things we do and from the environment we create that we honor their presence. So now these are just a few out of several other things that can be done.
Brilliant.
Including strategic
great.
Teachings for, and so on and so forth, how they're welcomed, how they're received, orientation programs, and so on and so forth.
Great.
Yes.
It's brilliant. And, just those listening, systems, sometimes we hear the word systems and we think, some people may listen and think, that sounds mechanical. It sounds like hard work. What systems are really about, what we're hearing today, it's all about living life by design. It's all about being intentional about putting the things in place to create the outcomes that you desire according to your vision. And so as you just heard there, so many examples of just being intentional about creating an experience and an environment and a culture conducive to the results and the outcome that you desire in your organization, in your business, in your team, amongst the people that you lead. It's all about being intentional. Fantastic. Akomaye, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Errol.
I know you chatted a while and you shared a lot right there. Is there a parting word before we go today? 'Cause I know you're over in Calabar, Nigeria right now. I'm over in the UK. And, really appreciate you, man. Really appreciate you. Is there a closing or parting word you want to share?
Okay. I like to say, no matter where you're at, believe in what God has put on the inside of you. Believe that it can take you beyond where you are if you can just take the steps to understanding what you have on the inside, understanding where you want to be, and identifying the resources that can prepare you to get there. A mobilization will commence that will eventually lead you the upward way and the forward way. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol at errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around a leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away. We'll get you booked in. It's Errol at errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes. Give us a nice review, that would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.